Paulette Williams from Out of Many Smile Jamaica Charity. I endorse 10-Star General and Sharon Mango from SPRB Radio Podcasts. Check them out. Check them out. You won't be disappointed. Authentic music and heartfelt love. Check them out.
Hey, what's up? My name is Ray Vaughn, and I fully support SPRB Radio Podcast. Check in.
Yes, this is Jerry Harris. I want to fully endorse the SPRB Radio Podcast with 10-Star General and Cheryl Mango. You won't be disappointed. Check it out.
Hi, I'm Janiceness, and I always tune in to the SPRB Radio Podcast with General Culture and Sister Sharon Mango. Yo, you don't have to take my word for it. Just tune in and catch the vibration. Yeah, this one is knockings.
And we are back here with another edition of the Mental Health Awareness Show. And we have the family panel here. We're going to introduce ourselves organically. Before I do that, I just wanted to play one more endorsement. The way she coming is just wicked. Take a look at this.
Hey everybody, it's your girl Keisha Martin, fully endorsing SPRB Radio Podcast with 10-Star General and Sharon Mango. You already know it's a whole entire vibe. And I mean say, everybody just rock and come in, cause we are jamming at the housing scheme. Bring your queen and leave your machine, cause out there go the vibes from the scene. In rock steady, baby, rock steady. Right over to SPRB Radio Podcast with 10-Star General and Sharon Mango. Keisha Martin says so. Fully endorsed.
Yeah.
Kaboom! I love that one so much.
You know I had to bust it.
I was wondering. I was just like, I know you're gonna play my girl on there because she murdered it.
It's always good. It's always great to see the great Keisha Martin all the way from New York. She's been doing a lot of touring on stage. She's one of the greats in our music industry, and she's joining us today as part of the family for a very important discussion. We all came together and we all decided to have a conversation about relationship trauma, which is very, very important, which is plaguing our communities as we know it. So we're just going to have an organic conversation. First and foremost, nobody is obliged to say anything if you don't want to. If you just want to listen in, that's okay. But if you do want to contribute, we thank you for doing that also, because it's never easy talking about one's own life, especially when you're speaking it out into the open. First and foremost, I am going to introduce myself. I'm 10-Star General. I'm one of the founders of this podcast. One of the reasons why I'm doing this is because I've always wanted to normalize us talking about mental health, which is not something we're used to doing in the Black community. You know, I always remember, family members would say, oh, don't talk your business to anybody, keep your things to yourself and don't tell nobody nothing. And you'll be sitting in silence, suffering, 4 walls of silence. I've known people who've gone through extreme measures and hang themselves, and it's not an isolated case because it was just one after the other. And I just wanted to normalize us talking about these situations that we find ourselves in. So first and foremost, we're just going to do the introductions. Everyone's just going to introduce themselves, and we're just going to start organically. Okay, so let's start with Miss Mango.
Thank you so much. Welcome. I'm so happy to see all your beautiful and handsome faces today. I'm so happy. My name is Sharon Mango. Yes, fix up yourself. You look a bit. I'll come in too. Good afternoon. Welcome to all. I am Sharon Mango, the other founding member of SPRB Radio. And as Tamstar says, we do want to normalize these conversations because we speak amongst ourselves, but we want to know that we're touching everybody, right? So without further ado, let me go on to my other sister in there, Miss Rankinan. Introduce yourself, love.
Greetings, everybody. I'm Rankinan, and I have had an interest in, mental health for the longest time. For many years, I worked with children and families, and mental health was always an issue with whatever thing we were dealing with, and also in terms of my own experience and friends and family. So I have a real investment in mental health being out there on the table and being spoken about and helping to free people to feel that they can just, express what's going on for them. And in so doing, help to improve their mental health.
Thank you, Rankin. Go ahead, Sharon.
No, I was going to say DJ Maestro.
Oh, hi. Yes, good evening, everybody. I'm DJ Maestro. Been doing this music thing for many, many years. And it's an interesting thing for me to be a part of this podcast team, to learn as well as observe, and see if there is some sort of solution to certain issues that people may have. It's not easy for one to come on live radio or a podcast to air their personal struggles or where it may be. But this is what we're here for. We're just here to see if we can help, and give it, if we have the right advice and or put you in the right direction, then that's what we're going to do, and that's what we try to do. So that's me. Yes, DJ Maestro. Thank you.
Thank you, Maestro.
Miss Martin.
Everyone, how are you? My name is Keisha Martin, singer-songwriter. I'm definitely a diehard supporter of this platform, not just because of my own personal, experience with trauma, but because I believe in just what this whole platform stands for. And so I'm super excited to have this discussion because I'm just sharing with others that, you're not alone. So.
Miss Gloria.
Hi, everyone. Once again, I'm glad to be here. I'm a big supporter of this group. Of course, I'm from Nigeria. I live in Nigeria. I'm an actor, and I'm an entrepreneur. I'm a humanitarian. I guess I'm every woman. And this topic means a lot to me. I may not be able to say a lot of things, but it's really like personal to me. So I'm here. I want to hear things. I probably will drop one or two, but I would learn, unlearn, relearn from, the experiences I'm going to be hearing from here. So yeah, I am excited and looking forward to the whole show. Thank you.
Miss Notes. Miss Beverly Notes.
Good day, good night, good afternoon to all in the room. I'm the only one in this group, in this team, that always has technical difficulties. So you cannot see me for that purpose, but in the meantime, I'm fixing things. I'm really honored to be here because the subject that we're on is something that we go through every day in our lives. Whether it be in the work, in the home, or just in our community. So I'm happy to be a part of it. It's a learning curve for everyone here because we're all going to learn something from it, regardless of the experiences that we've had physically or mentally with mental health. So let's go to it tonight. Okay, bless you all.
Yeah, go ahead, Sam.
Okay, is that the last? Okay, yes. Now, today we were supposed to have I was going to bring on a guest. However, it may be unlikely our guest may be able to come on. But if we do have time, our guest will be sharing some of his, experiences also. But I'm going to leave him in the waiting room for now. I want to big up Nicole Cottrell, who's on the outside
Yes.
listening in, and anybody else who's logged in and watching this show on Facebook, because we are on Facebook, which is SBRB Radio Channel on Facebook. That's if you're watching on Facebook, or if you want to watch us on Facebook, or you can check us out on YouTube. All you have to do is go into SPRB Radio Podcast. And once again, if you would do us a favor, if you haven't subscribed already, please subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're trying to grow the YouTube channel. So if you have a friend or whoever who may be interested in this channel, send them over to subscribe to our channel and share the link if you would. God bless and thank everyone. Right now,
Sorry, Tensa. Sorry, could you share all the links? A few people are asking. Could you just quickly share the links so we could forward?
All day, who needs the link that specifically, or is it just anybody watching?
I sent it on Instagram, so they're asking if there's a Facebook link. So I'd advise we just share the links.
Oh yeah,
So
if
if
they're gonna
anybody
go,
wants to join, they just click and join.
yeah. All they have to do is just go to YouTube and type in SPRB Radio Podcast, and then they'll be able to catch us live. I think that's the easiest way of catching us.
Yeah.
So once again, SPRB Radio Podcast, and then just subscribe and look for the live link, and we'll be there. I'm actually on it on my phone right now, so you should be able to see it on your devices.
Yeah, I'm looking at all of them actually.
Yeah. Are you on Facebook, Sharon?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll
I'm
be
on Facebook and YouTube. I have both my additional devices.
Brilliant.
I have.
Brilliant. So let's just monitor those two devices. Yeah. Okay. Yep. And so once again, just help us to subscribe to SBRB Radio Podcast on YouTube. We're trying to grow our YouTube channel. So if you know anybody who's interested in what we're dealing with here, please just send them over. Right. So we're going to get into why we decided to get into relationship trauma. Where did it all begin, Sharon?
Oh, so well, I in our last discussion stated I would talk about my trauma. So I'm gonna get into it. We've all been through something, right? In terms of relationship, because you're growing, you're trying to know yourself, you get involved with people, and for whatever reason, things may not work out. You go into a tailspin. You don't know. You lose yourself. Right? You even lose your identity sometimes, and for some people, they don't even come back from it. So, should I go into me? I'm going to talk about me for a second. Is that okay with everybody? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to talk about me. So, I have one daughter, and it's just funny because it was her father I met on one of my visits back home. I left the UK in 1981, November the 7th, 1981. I left the UK, right? Came to America with my family for this new life, right? Everything like that. And, I loved it. It was different. I didn't like it at first. It was very different. I come from a very strict family background. My father was no bloody joke. Well, my parents, period, but my dad was ridiculous. Anyway, so you come here, you're meeting people, you have your little boyfriends there, but you're not really doing anything. And I met somebody here that I really liked, and this person really cared about me. And as grown as I was just 20 years old, 20 going on 21 years old, 19, 20, and I met someone I really liked. And, my father was that strict. He goes, you need to go home. You need to go back home and stay with your mum because she needs help over there, because we still had our house and my mum was back and forth. Didn't want to leave because I have this boyfriend and blah, blah, blah. And so I go there and I spend about, I came back home for almost a year. During that time, I meet somebody else, right? And this person pursued me to no end. I'm thinking that this is, wow, And in my household, as Jamaican parents, they always used, for my parents anyway, they always used to say, if anybody mean you any good, if any man mean you any good, they're going to come in to meet mum and dad and show who they are. You know what I mean? If they really want you and blah, blah, blah. And that happened for me. So I'm thinking to myself like, oh, I guess my parents are correct. So I meet this person, we start dating a person through my cousin. And he immediately went to my mom, I'm in love with your daughter, blah, 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 this and the other. She said, well, it's not me, you have to convince her, you have to go talk to our father. So eventually I have to come back home, and then his father was living here, his father passed, so when he came up for this funeral, that was his opportunity. When he talked to my dad, I'm asking for your daughter's hand in marriage. So my headspace at the time was like, wow, this is really happening. Wow, I'm going to be married. I'm going to be, So all of that happened. My father said, well, yes, if you love her and you care for her, great. So at that time, inexperienced as I was, he had to go back to England. So he was here for a couple of months, and then I ended up pregnant. It was 3 months before I even knew I was pregnant. I had no idea, because my monthlies, if I'm going to be explicit, my monthlies were normal. Nothing changed. I just one day wasn't feeling well. 3 months later, found out I'm pregnant. So he's in London. I'm over, he's over the moon. Like, oh my God, this is great. I'm going to come back and we're going to do this. We're going to do that. Well, I'm here going through this pregnancy. When you come in, yeah, I got to do this. I got to do that. And I got a call. He was at some ex-girlfriend's house. I don't know. Turns out she's pregnant too. You cannot imagine my headspace at the time, because I'm carrying now. I'm 6 months pregnant. And the call came from somebody, not him. So I call him on it. No, it's not true. Don't believe people. I was like, are you sure? And as much as I wanted to believe him, I didn't. I knew it had to be true. And I went through that pregnancy. Yes, family was around by myself. My headspace at the time is, I'm going to be a single mother. Something I did not want for myself, because I had my goals, I had my aspirations. But I'm already having motherly instincts like, well, all what I wanted to do was going to be put on hold. I shut it down. Thinking less than myself. And he never showed up during the time I was pregnant with this child. I went through that. Again, yes, my family was there. Let me backtrack and say this. When I found out I was pregnant, my mum was with me, came home, told my father, he didn't talk to me. He didn't talk to me for a good few months. until I kind of started showing and was realizing, oh, I guess it's really happening, because he thought I was just going to wait till I got married before that happened and blah, blah, blah. So you just, again, it's a barrage of emotions at that time. Like, I didn't even want to be here because I felt I disgraced the family by becoming pregnant. It's tough. And I went through phone calls of threats from ex-girlfriends. Mine, you better not have your come away. I said, we're going to kill you. We're going to. I went through for no reason. And I had to get through, because I didn't even have the baby yet, and I'm getting these threats. And after having her, I believe I went through postpartum and not realizing it was it, because I remember that baby crying, my daughter crying. And I sat in space, like I just sat there holding her, not knowing what the hell to do, because I just kept saying, I'm by myself. I have to do this by myself. And till I somewhat pulled it together and realized, like, let me just try to take care of this baby the best way I can. I'll do it by myself. I just kept thinking, going forward, how was I going to deal with this now? I'm supposedly in a relationship and not in a relationship. This man is still calling, saying how much he loves me. Don't worry about anything else. But just the torment every month after month, month after month. I'm coming, I love you, I'm coming. Did my head in. Like, he turned my mind inside out. And again, I'm raising a child. I went through the stairs like, well, nobody's ever seen her with no man. I went through the pointing the fingers. I didn't want to be here. I did not want to be here. I mean, there's so much more to it, but that was my first experience in a relationship. Like, that was my very first in a relationship where I thought to myself, is this really how it's going to be? I was very cold. I tended to be a very cold person, because I said, the way I was raised, so strict, and knowing I waited, and I still got screwed in the end, that somebody would treat you this way. And I'm thinking back to what your parents tell you. Yes, somebody love you, they're going to come to you, they're going to come in the house and ask you. Didn't make, all of that went out the door, innit? So what is real anymore? I'm confused. I don't even know who I am. No idea who I was. What I wanted to do with my life again, my sole purpose is I got to make sure that this child is okay. I'm a single mother. Who is going to date me with a child? And who am I going to trust with a girl child? So many things. It was a mental thing. It did my head in. I was paranoid and felt worthless. It's the feeling of worthlessness because the individual made you these promises. That's what that relationship did to me. I could say so much more, but I'm going to give anybody else their time to speak. Or if anybody want to ask me questions, ask me whatever.
Yeah, that is a oof. I know exactly how you feel. Become a recluse. I became a recluse. Nobody saw me. Nobody heard from me.
Yeah, I could say the same thing. One of my stories I want to add to what I was saying before we even go on is that because of everything that I went through, it affected my daughter without me even knowing that.
That's right. It would do.
It affected her in terms of the way I was acting, because I was still trying to figure out who I was. And because of my trauma, I didn't realize how shut down I was because I wasn't talking. There was nobody to talk to. There was nobody to talk to. Right? Especially with Jamaican families. Is that right? Make him go on about in business. You will find somebody else. You don't want to hear that at that time. You don't want to hear that shit. I'm still trying to deal with me right now. Like, how did I find myself in this shit? How stupid am I? You're calling yourself all kind of names. I did not have a single soul to talk to. And I carried that burden for 25 years.
I was going to ask you that was going to be my question to you, Sharon. How long did you, from that point, from, you know, you was pregnant to where you felt that you were, you know, getting somewhere with your life and your child and so on? But you've just answered it, 25 years.
25 years of a portion of my brain being shut down. 25 years. I talk to my daughter all the time to say, whatever you're going through, do not waste your time like me. Tell me what's going on, because I know where I should have been there for her even when she was in high school, because we went through it, because I still didn't know who I was. I did not. I didn't know who I was or what I was capable of. She's growing up now, and during the teenage years is when she needed me more, but I'm thinking, well, she's 16 now, she's 17, she's going on, and she went through a barrage of things that happened to her. And I'm so angry that I wasn't there, that she couldn't come to me then. I have to acknowledge her pain, because when she says, Mom, you wasn't listening, you're trying to do your own thing, and I then got back into the music, and I just kept going, saying, okay, if I keep going, I can just in my head, I'm going to be big, I'm going to be doing this, and then I can take care of her more, when I should have been taking care of her then. I had to acknowledge that pain, and that was a hard pill to swallow, because I did not realize what I was doing or what I projected onto her. She told me that I told her that I had a career, which is true. When I came here and I started out in music, I had a manager, everything was going well for me until I got pregnant. I said, when that done, I was just stuck with a baby. I made the mistake of saying that to my child, and she reminded me, like, she's always felt guilty. Now it's making me feel worse, because I didn't even mean it in that manner, but that's how she took it. And that's understandable. And I had to acknowledge her pain too. So 25 years. 25 years it took me to know who I am, what I'm capable of. Yes, I am a smart individual. I can accomplish this. As opposed to being made to feel like I'm nothing, because I met men who say, oh, nobody no woman would not pick me. You know what I'm saying? And blah, blah, blah. I felt it was a lot. It was too much. It was a lot. So yeah, I wanted to add that too, like, because of my relationship trauma, it filtered to my daughter. And praise be to God Almighty. Praise be to God. I acknowledged my wrongdoings and how I handle things with her, where she has grown into an amazing professional in this world. Like, her goals, dreams, aspirations. She's one of the top chefs in the world. She's the performance chef for the Dallas Mavericks. When I watch each step, I was there for her for those things, because you can do it. Be better than me. Do not. And she went through some trauma, unspeakable trauma, I promise you. And I did everything in my power to keep her here. She didn't even have to be here today. She went through that, and I went through it with her. She went through unspeakable trauma. Today, she is the performance chef for the Dallas Mavericks. They got commercials on her. I could not ask for better. I just begged, please do better than me. Do not waste your life on what's happened before. It happened. Those were stepping stones. Grow and be the best that you can be. And I'm grateful to God. It's the only one that I have, like I said, because that trauma alone made me say, no, I'm not getting involved with nobody.
Have you been able to, because one of the things that you know, surprisingly helped me to move forward was when during that time I was having a hard time understanding the concept of God or who God was. I used to struggle with it really, really badly back in the 90s, something chronic. And I always had a thirst to know who God was and so forth. So it was almost like I was trying to seek God in order to figure out who I was, or strangely enough. And a lady who's a good friend of mine, funny enough, her name's Sharon as well, and she said, I should come to her church. And the minute I went to the church, after moving out the marriage and eventually, finding my own place and buying my own place, and really keeping away from people, I found myself in church. And the minute I walked through the door, the man's talking about forgiveness, you know, and the power of forgiveness and how it lifts the weight of one's shoulders, something as simple as that. And I thought about it one day, and eventually, it must have been about maybe a year and a half. Eventually, me and my ex-wife were able to come together, talk about it, let it go. And you'll never believe that every now and again she just calls me out of the blue. Hey, B, how you doing? Hey, I'm good. How you doing? It's like nothing really happened in the past. But those, funny enough, those that I had a harder time with were those that really let me down in the family, you know. And even though I've been able to forgive them, you know, it's that there's this standoffness about us. However, we're able to move forward from that. So, in your situation, Sharon, were you able to forgive?
I'm going to be very truthful. No, but
Okay.
and I say this to say it's all right that the relationship didn't work out. Okay, it's fine. I could deal with it. What I wasn't fine with, her acknowledgement. She was the first born child. Okay, 6 more came after her with different women. Okay,
Right.
I could not forgive that. You wanted to have this child. You wanted us to have this child. I've had her. I can go with my life, but you did nothing.
Okay.
My daughter's 36. He's done nothing.
Right.
And the year, what was it, 2 years when I came to see you, was the first time I had seen him in 30 years.
Wow.
Okay?
30 years.
30 years. And I said to my daughter, Mama, she said to me, Mom, I want to go because his mother was sick. I want to go and I want to confront him. I need him to know I would never need anything from him because this is what I do now. That's something she had to deal with because it was like the no father issues. You know what I'm saying? Why did he dump you? Why did he? I had to go through all of that stuff with her.
Yeah.
She was in a headspace now, like when she really started to make it, she goes, it's time for me to let it go. When she saw how God was blessing her, she said, it's time for me to let that other stuff go, the anger. When I came to see you is when she did it.
Right.
I thought I was over it. I thought I forgave, but when I came, we got there and we got that flat out there in was it Knightsbridge? I forgot where we were. And she said, well, he's coming here and he's coming with somebody or something like that. And I said, and I went off. He's coming here. Who's coming with him? Why should anybody? I went off. And she had to check me. Mom, this relationship, this is not about you, Mum. This is about me. If you knew you couldn't handle this, why did you come with me?
Mm-hmm.
And we're going back and forth until I had to humble myself and say, wow, Sharon, I guess you're still upset.
Naturally.
So after talking to her, he didn't come in. He came and he picked her up. And then all his children now, because she's now come to meet all her brothers and sisters, right? They only know about a child, the sister in America, but they thought that she was a snob. He told them many bullshit stories. Anyway, they finally meet. I knew one, treated him no way, made very nice. So they all got together as brothers and sisters from different mothers and said, we want to meet your mother. So I was like, okay, no problem. And they all came and he was there and I didn't know what I would do. I walked in, saw this man and I'm looking at him like, oh, all I said was, hello. And all his children came around me and hugged me and kissed me like they knew me forever. We're so happy to meet you. We love our sister and blah, blah, blah. We're so happy that she's doing well and blah, 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 all this stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's cool. I said, I'm happy to meet all of you. It's very nice. And he just sits there staring like, oh. And there I forgave. I forgave him right there because I said, all I needed was to say was hello. We don't have to have a conversation because you're not, you know what I'm saying? You're not even a thought in my mind. I let it go then.
Okay.
That's when I forgave.
Thank you, Sharon. Let's swiftly come to Ranking Ann.
Yes.
Ranking Ann.
Just to sort of feedback on what both Tenstar and Sharon said, the thing about letting go of trauma, sometimes we feel we've let go, and then as time goes by, something happens and we're triggered, and it's like we're right back to square one. So it's important to know that it can be a process. The letting go and the forgiveness can be a process that you may have to repeat a few times before it's real. And before I start sort of sharing my experience, I just wanted to say, which I should have said earlier, is that obviously when we're talking about trauma and difficult things, this may trigger people who are either part of this, watching it in the live or on the recorded session. So I'm saying to people, for self-preservation, if anything is triggering you, you need to walk away from what you're hearing. Just for self-preservation, walk away. Come back later if you have to, but sometimes we get triggered and it's not a good thing at all. So just to say that before I start my story. And before I start, I'm going to say that I'm not going to name names because this is not a name and shame for me, but I will just give people a pseudonym just to make it easier to understand the story. So this is going back to when I was late teens, early 20s. And, I think as Sharon highlighted, at that point, we think we're grown, but still quite naive. And I remember it was kind of the end of uni, and I'd made some really good friends at uni. But at the end of uni, everyone goes back to their own parts of the country. So I didn't have those friendships anymore. So I came back home, and I was kind of getting into, a business, and I was working with someone who had their own business. And in doing that, this person who had their own business, they befriended me. And so it was a kind of working and a growing friendship situation. And, as time went by, and for me at that young age, because I'd been very used to just knowing people my own age who didn't really know how to listen and kind of respond to your issue because you're all kind of the same age. Now, this particular person, we call this person Mr. C, who, had his own business. He was maybe 6 or so years older than me. Now, back then, someone who was 6 years older than you, it was quite a big gap because that person had their own business, their own house, experience, worldly wise. And, me, this young girl, say, who thought I was, all grown, didn't know much about the world. And sometimes people can show friendship or be friendly, and being kind of naive, we accept, oh, it's a friendship. But often friendliness or friendship can be a way of manipulating a person into doing what you would want them to do, and you have your own agenda. So this was what was happening. I was working with this person. They were being very friendly. We used to hang out. We had, we had the same interests. We'd go eat out together. And what was happening is that this kind of pressure to get into a relationship was happening. And I must say, on one level, on some level, I was resisting it. Didn't know why, just, but was resisting it. But being kind of worn down, eventually I got into this, I wouldn't have situationship, but a kind of relationship. But it was a kind of working and friendship and relationship all rolled into one. But as time went by, I realized that it had been started on a basis, there was no honesty, I should say, because I eventually found out that I was the side piece in this. And as this young person who trying to find my way in the world, basically, it didn't sit well with me. And being brought up in a Christian, kind of background, even though I wasn't really practicing my Christianity at that point, it kind of grated on me that I was in this situation. And within me, there was this conflict of where I was at that point. And I remember after a little while saying, I'm not comfortable with this situation, and I really want to be with somebody who I'm the only person in their life, and we can make a life together. And I was saying this, all along, but still kind of sucked into the situation. The whole thing about what they call soul ties, where you have an attachment, it's unhealthy attachment, but you're stuck in this situation. But in my head, it was like, and I'm saying it out loud, if I find someone who, is suitable for me, I will be with that person. And Mr. C was, he said, agreed that this would be the case. That's okay if I found somebody that was okay to, go off. But not knowing then, that you have to kind of take yourself out of a situation before you can go into another one in a healthy way. So it was difficult. And in the end, I found that it was very, very hard for me to kind of cut loose and free myself from that. And eventually I went to another place of work. So I didn't have to see, this person on a regular basis. So I had a new job and, sort of different life kind of thing. And eventually I did cut loose and, started a new relationship and, whatever. But what I always try to do is to remain friends with, with people that I've had any kind of dealings with. So the friendship was maintained, and now and again, we would talk and catch up, and sometimes I do a bit of moonlighting on the side, do a bit of works with this person, and I remember one day, well, there was an offer to do. To do another project. So it meant I'd have to take a bit of time off from my main job. And I went and, we did this project. It was really nice and pleasant. And, after not being around this person for a long time, it was just nice and pleasant to kind of catch up. Anyway, driving back home that night, and it was quite late because it was a long thing. And it would have been about kind of midnight, 1:00. We're driving back. He's driving. I'm in the passenger seat. And he's a very good conversationist, very good at conversation and keeping things, upbeat. And then I realized he was very, very quiet, very good. And I thought, that's not like him. But at the same time, I'm very comfortable being quiet with people. Sitting in silence wasn't a problem. So driving along now, and I'm thinking, but this quietness it doesn't feel comfortable. So I kept saying to him, "Are you okay? Do you want me to drive? Are you tired?" He said, No, it's okay." So driving along now, and I think maybe about 3 or so miles from my home, and suddenly I just felt something smash into my face, and I didn't know. It was just that totally out of left field. And when I turned to him, I just saw a fist coming towards my face the second time. And in my head, I counted 4 times the fist smashed into my face. And it's really funny because it was all like in slow motion, even though it wasn't slow motion, but everything slowed down. And when I looked across at him, I could see the fist coming again. And I actually went to one side to avoid that fifth blow. And at the same time, I was trying to open the car door to jump out. Now, don't forget, the car is still moving. But the shock and the horror of this, blow or the blows, I didn't know what was happening. My head was in a spin. So I'm trying to get out of the car. And he is saying, shut the effing door. Do you want to kill us? And even the voice that came out of this person's, mouth didn't sound like the person that I knew. And I'm still trying to get out of the car now. I hadn't realized that I was belted in, because in those days, the seatbelt law had just come in. So we weren't even used to being belted in. So I'm trying to get out the door. And he is grabbing my coat to pull me back in and swearing at me. And so I did pull the door back in. But at that time, I'm bleeding. My mouth is bleeding. I'm crying because I don't know what's happening. I don't know what's happening. My head's in a spin. And he's saying words, but because my head is in a spin, I don't even know what the words were. I think one of the words might have been, "Why did you leave?" Might have been, but as I said, my head was somewhere else. So I'm trying to, grab tissues to mop up the blood. I'm crying. And in my head, I'm saying to myself, be silent, because if you speak, it could just be worse. And we're driving, and I'm saying to myself, why is it taking so long to get home? We're only down the road from where I live. And my head is saying, is he going to take you somewhere to kill you? Is he going to drive you somewhere to kill you? Because the road is empty, it's dark. This person's become crazed. And what's going on? And it was the most horrendous few miles that I've ever driven in my life. I was so scared. And eventually I did get home, and I had some things in the back of his car, and he just took out my bags and smashed them on the ground. And actually I had this, a litre bottle of Hennessy, which I bought on duty free. So I was very upset that was smashed. Face was smashed, Hennessy smashed. I was not in a good place. I went into my house. There was no one in my house. So I was just there trying to bathe my face, the cuts. And I was just in shock, because I had never in all my life, I've never been in a fight at school. I've never been beaten by my father. I've never had anybody lay hands on me, not to scratch me, not to bruise me. And just out of nowhere, with no argument, no fight, this happened to me. I couldn't understand what was happening to me. Anyway, I knew I had work the next morning, because I'd taken time off before to do this project. So me being the person I am, didn't even dream of taking a day off, because I said I've got to go back into work tomorrow. So I, bathed my face with salt water to help the swelling and to go down. Tried to sleep, but it wasn't easy. I'm a person that can sleep through anything, but my nerves were so shattered. I kept jumping out of my sleep and having palpitations. And anyway, got up the next morning, and this is before the days of mobile phones. It's before the mobile phone days. That's how long ago it was. And my phone kept ringing. My house phone kept ringing. So I picked it up. This was before I was going out to work, and I heard his voice, and I just slammed the phone down. I just didn't want to even hear the voice. The phone rang, I think 2 or 3 times. I think I picked up twice and slammed the phone down. I said, I'm not having this. I don't want to hear anything from you. So I continued getting ready for work, and for a long time the phone didn't ring. Then it rang again just before I was leaving out for work, and this time it was a woman's voice, and it was of somebody who knew me and knew him, and was saying to me, like, could you talk to him? I don't know if she said that he's sorry, but I just said to her, I haven't got time for this, and I put the phone down. And in my heart, I was angry that she would have got involved in this. And maybe she didn't know. He may not have told her what he'd done, but it just made me angry that she had even done that, because everything just made me angry at that point. So I'm driving into to work now, and that morning I had to be in one of my schools, and in my head I said, I've got to have a story as to explain why I've got this swollen lip. It wasn't as bad as the night before, but it was still swollen. So I in my head I made up this story that if anyone asked me about it, I should have go back and say it was during the time there was snow on the ground. So I was going to say, I slipped over on some ice and I, cut my lip. So that would be my story if anyone asked me. So I had it all planned. So I went into school that morning, and it was staff. We always had jokes, running jokes to each other. And the first person that approached me, she's always running. And she said in a very jokey tone, she goes, "Oh, what's happened to you? Did your boyfriend beat you up?" And even though it was said in jest, it was like, I just wanted to cry. I felt the back of my, the tears split back of my eyes, and I just wanted to bawl. And I held together and I said, "Oh no," I said, "I fell down in the snow and cut my lip." And she goes, that kind of as if I don't really believe you. But, so I went through that day just feeling like I couldn't make sense of what had happened to me. And I had to go into the office, and luckily my desk was in the corner, so the other team didn't really notice my face, because I'm a quiet person in the team. They didn't really notice that I was quite quiet that day. And I went through that, and I said, I went through all of that. Nobody else commented on it. And I went back home and I had set in my head, I'm not going to tell anybody what's happened to me. I don't even tell anybody what's happened to me. I just, want it to go away. So I had no intention to share this with anybody. And I didn't tell one single person what happened to me. And it was like, I would have to say, in the interim, what happened to me is that my sleep pattern changed, and that I would jump at my sleep and have palpitations, and and I tried to do things to calm myself down because sleep is very important to me. And even at that point, I was actually dating somebody. I never told this person. I live with my brother. I never told him. And, because they didn't see me in the bad state, I just thought, keep it to myself. Anyway, about 2 years later, and I thought I'd managed it. I thought, yeah, I've managed it. I don't have to see this Mr. C anymore. He's not in my circle. I don't have to see him, so that's fine. As long as he's nowhere near me, that's fine. Anyway, about 2 years later, I remember I was dating a lovely, lovely young man. Lovely. He was very, very kind and gentle. And we're sitting just talking in his car. And I can't tell you at this point what it was, but something, maybe a look in his eye, triggered something. And I just fell apart and I couldn't stop crying. I couldn't stop crying. And he's in shock. He's saying, "What's wrong? What's the matter?" Because we were just talking all early and something triggered me to just fall apart. And I eventually just told him the headlines of this, what happened to me, not the details. And he was so upset. He looked at me and said, "Mommy, go do him something." And I said, no, don't. It's okay. Because one thing I didn't want is anybody to get into trouble, defending me. Because I know if I told any of the men in my life, back then or ever, they would have taken up arms because they know that I'm a person. I don't get into fights. I'm not into aggression, and I didn't deserve what I got. And that was like 2 years later. Fast forward about 8 years later now, a friend of mine came to stay, and she was actually an associate of this Mr. C. And she knew that I wasn't, in touch anymore. And she kept saying to me, "You must come back and, do a project with us, because you'd like you to come and do a project with us." And I said, no. She goes, "Listen, because at that point, I should say, I was born again Christian, back in church." And she goes, "Listen, you as a Christian, you're supposed to forgive and not hold grudges." And that did something. I said, okay, not because of what he deserves, but because of my love of Christ and what I want to be, I would go and, go back and say hi kind of thing. And that was 8 years later. And, he was very, he seemed very humble and apologetic and whatever. But it was still there was still an uneasiness being in his presence, and I didn't feel. I would make sure I was around other people in his presence, and so he said he was really sorry for what happened, and I think at that point I genuinely forgave him because, as I said, the kind of spirit that I had in my heart at that point, that spirit of forgiveness and love and acceptance, I did genuinely forgive him at that point. And then a few years later, he wanted me to do another project, and this time meant that I'd have to be alone with him. And at that point, I think I grew strength. I think I didn't feel that I couldn't be alone with him. So it was only a couple of hours project, and I did that, and it wasn't 100% great, but I felt strong enough to do that. But there was still always in the back of my mind what had happened, that I couldn't shake that off, because it had happened, and even though he said he was sorry, it had happened. And then fast forward now to I would say 20 years later, I felt the need to, I don't know where it came from, but I felt the need to write the story because I realized that it was still there in my head, sometimes going around. And I actually started to write a novel, which was, change the names of the characters, but my story. And when I went to write that chapter about what happened that night in the car, it took me, I couldn't stop writing. I wrote and wrote and wrote, and things I thought I'd forgotten came back in. The conversation came back in. And I wrote, when I finished writing, it was like I'd just gone through it all over again. I felt that kind of loss of energy, the hurt, and everything came back. And that was like 20 years after the event. And I thought, wow, but I had to do the writing. I had to write it. And it was good that I'd written it. And it's good that it reminded me I still got work to do to deal with this. And I kept reading it, and I kept reading it, and kept reading it. And the more I read that chapter, the less it had power over me, the less that thing had power over me. And then a few years on from there, sorry if I'm taking long, but I'm just trying to give you the kind of history of why things sometimes do come back. And then a few years after that now, I realized that, having worked, with this person, I would have money owing to me. So because I thought it was on a kind of respect level still, I made contact and I said, how about, giving me some money from the past of, from way back way when, I worked with you. And suddenly this person that was had been so friendly switched. The switch was just like that. And all that physical aggression I remembered back then became this verbal, this spiritual thing that became this nastiness. And suddenly I said to myself, you see, when people say they're sorry, often it's just the words, because they're the same disgusting person that they are. And I suddenly got these really nasty emails, about why I don't deserve to have, what's owed to me, what I would thought was owed to me. And I got to a point where I said, you know what, I don't need this. I lived without this money for how much years, 30 odd years. I don't need this. So I basically just blocked and delete. Anyway, shortly after that now, I got an email. I was copied into an email by a journalist who had a report from someone who had worked with this Mr. C and was very upset that how they'd been treated. And this person was saying, I want to warn people, this Mr. C is not a nice person, so don't work with him. So because I was copied into the email, I wrote back and said, just to let this person know, I've been there. So, I know what it's like to, to have to be on the receiving end of this person. So I'm happy if you want this to talk to me, I'm happy to give you some support. Now, what this journalist did is he then sent the email that I sent to him and this other person to Mr. C. And then Mr. C wrote back to the journalist, when I say a disgusting email, calling me all kind of bitches and all kind of F words. And this journalist then sent it to me that I could see what was said about me. And at the top said, "You need to work this out." I wrote back the journalist and said, "No, I don't. Firstly, when Mr. C says if I don't shut up, he's got things he can talk about, I said, let him talk, because I'll be so glad to expose this man who, punched me in the face repeatedly to the point where I could no longer be in that circle anymore. So I said, let him talk, because I will happily respond to anything he says. And then, as I said, I actually blocked the journalist after that, because I thought, you know what, as a journalist, you really didn't do the right thing in what you did, sharing certain things. And it just showed me that people, who pretend that, oh, I'm so sorry for what I've done, especially when it comes to physical abuse, a lot of people, they just don't change, can't change. And the sad thing that happened was, as I said, I never spoke out, but years and years and years later, someone shared with me, she had no idea what I'd been through, and she shared with me, and she said to me, he did this thing to me. And I felt so bad. So I said, if I'd maybe shared with her what I'd gone through, maybe she wouldn't have gone through that, And it just shows that, even though it's, as I said, decades on, the same cycle of abuse is going on. And sometimes I do feel bad that I didn't speak out. I didn't call the police, because what he did was an imprisonable offence, actual bodily harm. And he is just free to keep doing what he does to women. And the thing is, he would not dream of picking up his fist to a man. But when you've got a weak, inadequate man, they will always focus on females to take out their frustrations on. And it was really hurtful. But the thing that I tried to do to help myself was, I said, I wrote about it, and obviously things bounced back. I then managed to, because someone asked me to do a project, and I was able to write a song which actually outlined this kind of what happened to me. And it was, when I did this song, it was like a release. Every time I play that tune and sing it, it's like therapy for me, because it's just like, yeah, I'm saying it out loud now. And if the world knew who it was in this record, so be it. But I know I've had to do things to help myself, because even now you're talking about 37 years on. I was watching Netflix just a little while ago, and I was loving the show, and suddenly the man punched this woman in the face repeatedly, and all of a sudden I was in a really bad place, because it shocked me, because it was a shocking scene, and it took me back to what happened to me. And I thought to myself, 37 years later, you are still feeling the pangs of that trauma. What? And it really did surprise me. And then shortly after that, someone asked me to do an interview, a radio interview. I just felt the need to speak out about what happened to me, because I've never spoken out about it publicly. And even though, I call no name, because I keep saying to you, I call no name, but in the interview, I was able to speak out. And once again, it was a real release. This was the great thing about it. I'd never told anybody. I said, no friend, no family. But my friends heard the broadcast, and my best friend, she called me and said, and I never knew you went through this. And she was so upset. And it gave me the space to tell my best friend everything. And it was just the most beautiful release I'd had in all the 37 years of experiencing that. So I'm just saying this to say that, that we can sometimes think we've dealt with things and it can bounce back on us. And we have to continually find ways to deal with it and let go of it, get the therapy, whatever it takes, But it's, the truth is, there's still times when I still have that kind of jerk reaction, because sadly, because I have so much mutual friends on Facebook and Instagram, every now and again I have to see the face of this person and the name of this person, and it gives me that gut wrench even till now. But you know what I do? This is my new therapy. When I see it, I just cuss him in my head out loud if I'm alone. cuss the word them, cuss him as a bad man. And, you know, I try to be honest with my things. I don't pretend that you know, I'm over it. I tell you what I think about you. This is to myself and the, you know, and what I'm seeing on the chat there. And that's how I have to deal with it. I have to be very true and honest about my feelings, my emotions. And I can't pretend to say, yes, it's all in the past. No, it's not all in the past, because I have to still see your face. I have to still see your name in my news feed. I don't ask for it, but this is the algorithms that they do what they do. Trying to deal with it by, as I said, just being honest in my response and just calling the bad word them and then on. So yes, so trauma is something that it can really keep hitting you repeatedly, but you have to repeatedly find ways, method, and strategies to deal with it, and not pretend that it's all in the past.
Thank you, Rankin Ann. Thank you for sharing your story. Let me just come to this before we move on. Bear with me a second. Let's see. Nikki Cottrell, sing a little bit of the song for us, please.
For me?
Yeah. Is it a popular song that you released?
Yeah, it's the one. It's called Jealous Man.
Okay.
Jealous man, tell you where your madness come from. Make it on you in a damn madman. You going like orangutan, gang, 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 gang.
Woodla. Okay.
It's called Jealous Man. If you want to see it on YouTube, you can find it on YouTube. Jealous Man.
Jealous Man, Rankin Ann. Thank you so much for sharing your story. Again, I just want to applaud everyone so far who has told their story, because it can never be easy to share one story. I know there was a few amongst us who didn't want to share their story, so we're going to leave them out of that bracket. But for those who are telling their stories, it speaks much about you, and I do applaud every single one of you. So let's come swiftly to DJ Maestro, and then we can free flow from there.
Well, mine's I haven't really. You know what? I must be the lucky one, because just listen to what you three guys have said so far, and Rankin and boy, I don't know how you do it, because even speaking to Rankin, and let me tell you this, everybody, and you're speaking to Rankin and you're talking to her, she's always jovial, always cracking jokes, but you know, you just don't know. You know, I didn't know this until just now. So you know, I'm in your corner. You know, I applaud you, and you did this all by yourself. I'm so sorry that you had to go through all of that shit. Excuse my language.
No,
man, because
it really is.
you know, it's pure BS. You know, I'm not being funny. As a man, no man should raise their hand to any woman. That's my motto. That's everything. That's all in my being. I've never raised my hand to a woman. So, and I've never been in. That's what I want to say. I've never been into a hostile relationship. I've never been that way. And as you guys know, most of you know that the lady I'm with now, my wife, I've been with her for 38 years. So, you know what I mean? It's sometimes I've seen it, and it for me personally, it's alien to me that, you know, what Rankin has gone through, what Sharon gone through, even yourself, 10 Star. You know what I mean? It's volatile situation that, and I mean, at the time, you don't, obviously you're not going to know. You aren't at the beginning of it. You're not going to know how a relation is going to pan out. You just don't know. You just don't know. You can't tell the future. You can't tell the future. You know, so you go into it, you know, with your eyes wide open, and then, you know, something, you know, after a while, something clicks and says, hold on a minute, this ain't right. Something's going on. So, you know, as I said, I haven't really got a story to say, but you know, just listen to what you guys are saying. It's kind of break my heart enough to hear, you know, what you've been through. So, Yeah, man, I love her. I'm in your corner all the time. So, yeah. All right, intense style.
Thank you, DJ Maestro. God bless you, brother. And you're a shining example for all of us, 38 years, that's no joke, You need the whichever highest award that a person can receive that should go to you, because you're an awesome human being as well. So I'm gonna come swiftly to Keisha. Keisha.
So, hi everybody. I just wanted to say, we learn about each other so that we can grow. And the more we know about each other, the more we can give each other grace because, you know, trauma doesn't leave us at all. It doesn't matter when it happened, it does not leave you. And I definitely applaud you ladies for your strength. And life doesn't come with a book. I always say life is always lifing, right? And whatever it is that you've been through, you know, continue to stay strong. Vulnerability is not a thing that I like. I enjoy being. It's hard being in that space where you're vulnerable. And even speaking of your story now, um, it's important to lean on those people that you can talk to. Sometimes it's few and far in between, and they're not many. That you can just like really unload and speak to and not feel like you're being judged or sometimes you just want to be heard. You just want to be able to, and I love this platform for that reason. My perspective of trauma came from, I'm not going to speak about relationship trauma as far as it pertains to the man and woman aspect. My trauma is from childhood. I'm not going to give the lengthy version of it, but the long and short of it is my trauma started before I was even the age of 10. And the short version is, me and 10, we've spoken about these things because, we've reasoned about many things. And the short of it is, before I reached the age of 10, my first abuser was my mom. And I love my mom dearly, and that doesn't change because of, the things that happened in as a child. And people don't understand like that dynamics. It's like no matter how, because you don't know the word abuse when you're a child, you don't. So like whatever's happening, you're feeling like it's the norm because adults have made you feel like it's the norm. Nobody's coming to rescue you, nobody's doing that. And that happened for a few years, and then my mom migrated to the States at age 6 because my grandmother like brought her here or whatever the situation is. And my grandmother brought her here to bring us a better life because my mom had plenty, like 6 children before like whatever age, because she was pretty young with 6 kids. Living in a tenement yard, and I had a grandaunt, Auntie Doris, rest her soul. She was the person that was like really trying to just look out for us with a grandaunt, her great grandniece, like, with these children, and just wasn't someone who knew how to parent. And I put it like that because again, I love my mom, and it's not a blame game because how the healing process happened for me late in my life is because I had to look, we have to humanize one another despite of what happens to us. We have to put ourselves in our parents' shoes. And I know like people will want to say, oh my God, she was a terrible this and terrible that. And it looks like that. I mean, we call it what it is for what it is, but it wasn't just her. Like, understand, like, as a parent, how you treat your kids, other people are watching. Predators are watching. So she was the first abuser, and she left us in the care of someone she thought was her friend. And for a year, we went through I went through a different set of abuse. You know what I'm saying? Like, as a toddler, like you're 6 and you're left with this woman that your mom thought was her friend. And, we watch all these stories and these movies and we think like this is not happening in real life to people. But I remember my most vivid memory at 6.
Take it easy, go. Take it easy. There's no rush.
I just remember my memory at 6 being beaten by a woman that I didn't know and left, picking that run on when you're Caribbean. Your kids them run around in the yard in like panties and stuff like that. But at 6 years old, you beat a child so bad that her skin is broken and she's bleeding, and you tie her up in an ant's nest in the middle of the sun on a tree stump. That's horrific.
Yeah.
These things are horrible. And I brought this up because it's the beginning of my trauma. It wasn't.
Yeah.
Show people that things like this, it doesn't leave you. It doesn't leave you. It affects how you deal with your children when you have children. It affects how you deal with friendships, relationships, everything. But we have to humanize one another in order for healing to begin. And I promise you, even though it's emotional to talk about, I've never spoken out loud publicly about that particular situation. And just how I've stumbled through life is that I look at everything that's bad that's happened to me, and I'm like, when you're mobilizing, you're like, I'm strong. I'm the strongest person that I know.
Yeah.
But someone once said, who takes care of the caregivers? And the reason why I love on people the way I do is because I am constantly remembering the things that's happened to me. Like things like that. And I never want someone to feel like in that moment, they weren't protected, or in the emotional, like how I felt in that moment. Because even after that, at 6, I came to America, and you think, okay, at 9 years old, okay, that's the escape because you escaped this type of trauma. But before I even got there, my mom came back a year, took us out of that situation, and then we were back in the yard again. And then we went through abuse. I don't know what my siblings went through. I only can speak to my story. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was molested before I got to America. And then at 12, when I got to America, raped at 12 in my mother's house. So people don't get it. You see people and you don't know. This is why I'm constantly saying grace is so important. Grace. So give people grace. If you meet someone and they're in a bad space or they act out against you, I'm always in a space where I look at them and I deal with them in love. It's a hard thing to do. But I cannot be upset at the world because I'm still here. I am still here. So every day I wake up, I'm grateful. And I say to myself, how can I make somebody's day better? I can. That's what helps me in my journey of healing. Of course, eventually in my adult life, I got therapy and started talking to somebody professional, but those things still stay with me till this day. But again, I lead a life of just being positive. It's a struggle. It's a fight to be in a good space, but we have to just say, you know what? This happened to me, but I am going to actually be better because I'm still here for a reason. Music has been such an outlet. I saw someone in the comments say music is such an outlet, and it has been. When I write, I remember being homeless, like literally on the verge of homeless, and a song that I wrote was Believe, because I literally in the song played out everything that happened and those emotions in that moment. So it's like, what do you do when you've been through so much and you're still here? You still got that positive, a reason to be grateful, a reason to just say thank you for just another day, because that's the gift.
Yeah.
I can't tell anybody how to live their lives. I can't tell you how to get through your process, but however that looks like for you, you have to get to that,
Yeah. Yeah.
And you know, that's what I wanted to share. I'm sorry I was so emotional, but I've never said this before. So thank you.
You have to let it out, Keisha, and you've done it,
You
man.
have to. You have to. That was,
You know, because that's the healing process, and it takes a long time to you know, what you've been through, man. It's just it's so difficult, but yeah, man, yeah, you know, it's got to come out. You know, we're you know, you have to your emotions coming out. It's what's within you. So yeah, you know, thank you for telling us that, man.
Thank you once again. And to be honest, you know, this is exactly why I wanted to build this platform for these reasons, because I keep on saying, I think I've expressed it with loads of people that I speak to, that there's a high percentage of us who's been through traumatic experiences, you know, and even though I think Rankin answered we never really heal from it, you know, or it never ever runs away from us, but it sits dormant at the back of our brain. I think we're having to deal with the pressures of life. Like I expressed the fact that, you know, you've got to pay bills. If you haven't got a pension, you've got to sort out your pension. There's so many things you have to deal with. If you have kids, you've got to fund kids. So the pressures of life really and truly pushes that trauma to the back of your head, and you're dealing with the pressures of life. And it only takes one situation. I think somebody in the comments said something where it only takes that little situation to trigger that feeling again, and it all comes flooding back, you know. And one of the reasons why, you know, I wanted to do this platform as well as Sharon Mango was to give us that space to express it, you know, and hopefully people who are struggling out there, because there are loads of smiling faces who go to 4 walls of stress and the pressures of life, which we all know what the answers turn out to be when it becomes like there's no room for them to maneuver. So I'm I'm so happy that you were able to come on this platform, Keisha, and express yourself, because I do believe that, you know, like I said before, you know, that we all are going to be integral in saving people's life. It will take this one person to come out of the woodworks to say, I came across this platform and you don't know how much you helped me. Even if it helps just one person, it means a lot, you know. So a spiritual hug from the entire group, Keisha. You
absolutely.
know we love you to the bone. Let's come swiftly to Sister Gloria Jemadafe.
God, I am I'm short of words. Ranking Anne, I like I have to thank God my if you were seeing my facial expressions, I felt like screaming because I'm like this you know, you sounded like you were in a movie, but this wasn't a movie. This was like what really happened to you. And I'm asking, like, why didn't you tell anyone? Why didn't you call the police? This guy would have killed. Do you realize that? I mean, like, why didn't you think of jumping out of the car? Let me tell you now, because now you see, one time I said I wasn't going to say something, but so I now remember some guy. Yes, I'm going to say it. So I remember some guy I was dating, and I started to notice like he had some kind of irregularities. So this day, we're in the car, and I just say something not out of the world, and the next thing I receive a thunderous slap.
Mm-mm.
Do you understand? So I'm relating. I just remembered now, like now. And we're in the car, and wherever he was going to drop me was really, 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 really far. But I wasn't going to take any chance. So I stay, and immediately I started to calculate my next move. I was not going to continue that journey with him. So when we got to the filling station, immediately for some reason the locks of the car I think he released the locks to attend to the attendant, the fuel attendant. I jumped out of the car and began to run. I ran. In Nigeria, we call it Okada. I jumped on the next, it's like the bikes. I jumped on the next available motorbike to take me to wherever, and that's how I left. So I began to wonder, like, man, oh, this guy would have killed you. Why did you not tell the police? How would you let such a thing fly? I'm really shocked and sad and very angry. That's a big risk you took. I'm sorry, I'm really like, how did you, why? Why did you let him go free?
Can I respond to that?
And
Gloria?
the other sister, oh man, this is, I'm sorry, I need to stop for now. So let me hear you.
Yeah, no, you're quite right to be absolutely kind of incredulous. But going back, remember, young girl, inexperienced, in shock. Now, the first thing is calling the police didn't even come across my radar. I didn't even think about that. The shock and the hurt and the horror and all the fear, police didn't come into it. Now, I've actually worked with women in Women's Aid. Now, that's a refuge for women running from domestic violence. And I heard many, many stories from women who said they were beaten by their husbands, for many years, and they never told. I remember as a young girl, I couldn't understand why they would, go and say they walked into a wall, they bumped into a cupboard. They would never tell anybody. And it's a thing, and it's more females than anything, but when people get into an abusive situation, it's almost like that sense of, even though you're the victim, it's that sense of shame. Now, it's not your fault, but it's just part of a psychological response. And that shame keeps you locked into not opening your mouth and telling anybody. Now, I'm not saying that some people are different. Some people do tell, but for some of us, we are just, and I've always been quite a locked in person, very private person. And for me in that situation, I knew that if I told, it could be two things. Someone would get themselves into trouble by trying to respond on my behalf. I might also have to tell the story of why I was in a situation with that person and the history, which I did not want to be out in the public domain, because that was my secret. The history with that person was my secret. So basically, all of that kept me locked in and kept me silent for all these years.
Congratulations is all I can tell you. Well,
thank you.
No, when Rankin Ann was telling the story, right? I think I told 10 Star, but I really keep it to myself. The year I was coming here, the year I was coming to the US.
I'm gonna just take off the mic of Gloria for a second.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So the year I was coming to the US,
Mm-hmm.
there was a guy that lives a few doors down from our high school, right? 10 Star, everybody knows we went to high school together. So a few doors down, there was a man that lived there. He was a dread. Big dude too. When I said big, he was muscly, but there was always something about this dude. And you used to hear these stories about him, raping women, or you'd hear the screaming in the flats across the street, and I'd hear it. So one day I was in school. It was the last year of school, of course. Like I said, the year I was coming in, so that's 1981. And after hearing Rankin Ann talk, that it just triggered me, because I was like, oh my God, I know how she felt. So anyway, so this guy comes around to the school. I was talking to somebody. He called another dude over to motion him, like, yeah, come in. And he's pointing at me. So he wanted the guy to set me up with him. So I'm looking, I was kind of know the story of this dude. I was like, I know he's not talking to me. Right? Me no want a damn Dirty Dread, but I call him Dirty Dread because there was nothing righteous about him. Nothing. So He's motioning. He said, and telling the dude what he's gonna do with me, right? When I tell you, sir, I cuss him. I cuss him till I cuss him. I just cuss. Anyway, break time come, me and my friend. He just looked at me and went like this. Okay. Me and my girlfriend going across the street to go get something to eat. And like, there's flats like directly across the street. So when you go and you can walk through the little entrance to go into the flats or go through the flats and go around the corner to the stores. I think I don't know if you remember that 10 Stars, the little stores around the corner, right across the street there.
That's right.
I saw him down the road, so I didn't even realize.
St. Augustine's.
St. Augustine's. When I tell you, I don't know how the guy got there. He ran. Me and my friend was about to walk up the stairs. Within the time I saw him down the road, and me and her came up. That's how big the guy was. He picked me up by my clothes like this, and he kept punching. I'm punching my face. So bad. My girlfriend was with me. He's so strong that she held on to him. And he kept punching. I dropped. And she grabbed me. Some other people from the school must have saw this happening, and he decides he's going to take on the whole school. But when I tell you the damage he did to my face, my mouth there was blood. My mouth was so swollen. All the nerves on my top were literally poking out. You understand me? Somebody called my father, and at that time, somebody called the police as well. Turns out, they had been looking for this guy because he's a known rapist, and this man was literally living 3 doors away from the high school. Imagine. By the time they took me to the hospital and to the dentist. They said there was nothing we can do for you because he said if we take the nerves out of your face, you might not even survive it because it's now swollen or poison you.
Right.
How many years later? 40 years later, I'm still suffering with the migraines. Still having dental work. It's just, but when Anne was talking about it's the fist.
Yeah.
It's the fist. It just kept coming, and his muscle, he was big. It's amazing I didn't even die. It's amazing.
I really am, sorry that, you ladies have been through what you've been through. I can't imagine anyone, like Maestro said, putting their hands on a particular person. And, if I was ever there to witness, more than likely I'll be doing time, most definitely.
That's for true.
I do feel like fear is another reason why maybe some people don't talk. It's just like trying to make sense of what you've been through, fear of saying something and fear of reprisals, which many of us in the Black community, are really scared of. If I do say something, is there going to be a reprisal? Is he going to come back for me? And especially me having a daughter at that, one of the things I've always said to her, and tried to make her feel is that no matter what the situation is, make sure you tell me what it is. You can always tell me, you know what I mean? And to make her feel comfortable with telling me stuff. And I can put my hand on her that to this day, she tells me everything, even stuff that I don't want to know about. Oh, Dad, you want to hear about this? But I'm grateful for it because she's telling me stuff. It's even worse for families, whose children, go through that kind of abuse. the kind of abuse that Keisha was even talking about, and don't say a word, and you will never know, maybe until they hit their grave, or maybe, how many years later you get to hear about these things. So they're really horrific, scary situations, But at some point, when we talk about trauma and we talk about solutions or ways of coping, how would you say we cope before? Because I think we have enough time to bring in a guest. So how would you say we deal with these traumatic situations, especially, let's go to Rankin Ann, if you knew somebody who was young enough or whatever and said to you, she's going through exactly what Rankin Ann went through. How would you tell her to cope with that situation?
The first thing is people have to talk it out, have to let someone know what's going on. Now, I know the whole thing about getting the police involved in certain situations. For some people, as you said, 10 Star, the fear factor of reprisal, for some people, they won't go to the police. And the second part to that is that where it comes to women going to the police about, especially if it's sexual abuse, they can make life harder for you than the actual abuser, because of the process that women have to go through when they report, for example, rape to the police. So saying to someone, go to the police, sometimes isn't the most helpful thing for someone that's going through that. What I would always say is find a support system. So, for example, when it comes to domestic abuse, you have places like Refuge, which is for women fleeing domestic violence. And it's not just physical, it's also psychological, emotional, financial abuse that that they can be going through. And they can, Refuge it's a national, I think it's international now, but it's a national organization which women can contact 24/7. And they will give that woman a place of refuge, literally, and support how to move away from that person in a safe way. Because
is that like a halfway house?
No, it's not really a halfway house. Refuge, it's actually a house where where you can stay until it's not in the real sense halfway house, but they give you that refuge and space for you to think, do I want to go back to this man? Because many women, I worked in this place for a time many years ago, many women that we saved from a battering would come, for a time, it could be weeks or months, then they would go back to the man. He would find them and they would go back to the man. So it's just sometimes giving that woman a space to say, what do I want to do next? Because you've got to give people the liberty to choose. But these places give you that space. And then if you want to move away, get away, they will give you that support to be rehoused, in a safe area away from this person. So I would say to women, and I know men as well, because we have refuges for men, because there are men that are battered and abused, by women or by their gay partner. Or should I say same sex, let me get it right, their same sex partner. So there are refuges for men, but not as many, because it's a thing that more women seem to be on the receiving end, or will report it, I should say. So it's just saying to a woman, get to a safe space, find a safe space to talk about what's happening to you, to get the support you need. Once you've got to that safe space and the safe place, it's then looking at what is it going to take for the healing process. And for each person, it's different. Some people it's counseling, some people it's therapy, some people it's doing something different, as we've said on here. Some of us it's music. We found our outlet by, meeting new people, different things, writing. And I always say, and I'll say it again, and I can't stress, writing your experience, it's therapeutic, not just for you, but for the people that are allowed to read what you write. It can also be a sense of help for people. So it's finding what works for you, but it is important to find that therapeutic, whatever it takes, whatever level it is, for you to get involved in it. And the healing process is also the whole internal work that you have to do on yourself, which is not just to say, I've moved on, it's okay, I don't have to see that person anymore, or I've forgiven them, because words alone in here and in here, it's not matching up. So you still end up feeling, the anxiety and the palpitations and the lack of confidence, and not wanting to be around people, all the things that come when you've been through certain trauma. So it's just really important that you deal with the emotional kind of impact that trauma brings to you. And be safe, because if there's a particular person that has done it to you once, done it to you twice even, then for goodness sake, if you can't report them to the police, get away from that person, or let someone know that that person is not safe to be near me, But it's really important that you don't keep putting yourself in harm's way of certain people, because whether it's a family member, because sometimes it's in a family, so it's hard to escape. But it has to be told to someone that can help you to get into that safe space. That is really, really important.
Thank you, Rankin Ann, for that. And we're going to do a recap just before we end the show today. I found something really interesting. I'm going to bring up Chris Heels so that he can share his story with us. Somehow, for some reason, we've lost Gloria. I can only think that maybe it's her phone, or maybe her battery died. Why she's not here, because I know she wanted to tell her story, but she needed a break. But like we say, just hearing these stories, may bring back some flashbacks of what you've been through, and I know Nikki is going through some of that at the moment. And, if you need to take a step away for a second from hearing these things, please do so. I want to come to something that I found as we finished our meeting a few days ago. I'm just going to try and bring it up. Bear with me a second. It's a short clip of something that I recognized that I went through, and it was so funny when I saw it. I said, "Look at that." But here it goes. Can you all let me know if you can hear it?
What we allow you to do is get an overnight bag. All right, so we'll go inside so you can get some of your things.
I have to leave with you?
No, you can drive away.
No. What I'm asking you is, I have to leave right now.
Correct. Yep. So you can go inside, gather up some of your things. We allow you that courtesy. And do you have your car here?
I do.
And then on your own accord, you can leave here, okay?
So you're going to leave and I can leave after you leave? I just have to leave.
We're going to leave. No, we're going to leave with you. We're going to leave together. Okay. You definitely have to leave today, okay?
Got you.
So what we'll do now, go inside, get some of your things.
You need this back?
What's that?
This.
Nope, that's for you.
This is me.
Yep.
This is me. That's officer and that's officer. Can I see your eyes, please? Is that okay? All right. My wife filed a false abuse claim against me in order to initiate a divorce, in order to get an advantage over the property that we have. Out of nowhere, she just filed a false abuse claim against me and had me evicted from the house. Women in particular who do this to men are criminals. They are dangerous. They are criminals.
That. Okay. Were you able to hear that, Maestro?
Yeah, I heard it.
Okay. Gloria.
Yes, I'm here.
You're back. I
Yes.
thought we had lost you.
No. I was on YouTube. I was having issues with network, so I was still with you guys on YouTube.
Okay. Now, before we move forward, did you want to say something about what you'd been through, or did you want to take time away from it for a little while?
Well, I never. I'll tell you what I can say is because I'm kind of relating to Anne's story, right? We will detect the signs. It's important we detect the signs somehow, no matter how, someone who's going to do such a thing pretends, he will show that sign. So I think since that particular event that happened to me, I study, I watch. If you just show some like unusual signs, it will take my mind back to just that thing, and I'll find my way to ease my, just let it go. And I may be wrong, but I never ever forget that incident, because I remember nothing. Just like she said, they were driving. Nothing happened. I can't even remember what I just said. Something. The next thing, you understand? And for Anne, what I can say is, because I also heard her saying that she gets to work in her life. I'd never worked with such a person. Never in your life, please. I love you so much. And never in your life find yourself in the same space with such a person, because, like the saying goes, a leopard never changes his skin. If you ever, and I'm telling you, if you ever give him the chance to stay, he will finish what he didn't get to finish.
Yeah.
They don't change. He's sick.
Yeah.
So that's why. And that particular person I'm telling you, one day I saw on Facebook, he had gotten married, glamorous wedding. A month or two after, he was already divorced when I met him. And I'm wondering why. And then that thing happened to me. And then after me, I think he's had 2 marriages. They're all very short. So I'm thinking that maybe he just does something crazy and they run. Yeah. So let's just I'd advise anybody because I see a lot of people on YouTube. Don't wait. Life is too precious. Get killed. I just feel that such a person could kill you. So let's all be very careful. God help us all. That's basically all I have to say.
Thank you very much, Gloria. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Great advice right there. Let us come to, I shared that video because it was something similar that I had been through, just very quickly. And, at the time when I said, this marriage can't go on much longer like this. And I remember taking off the ring, putting it down and saying, that's it. And then I remember my pressure went through, which was really crazy. It went up into the 200s over 160. And I remember fainting, and one of the pastors of our church rushed me to the hospital. By the time I came out 10 days later, the person whom I was married to had already put in a divorce claim, and said she was taking everything. Right, just like that, but we survived I survived it. And again, I found myself having to forgive. And my mind just kept saying, like the voice in my head said, forgive, let it go, move on. And that's what, I've been able to do. And even though we don't forget, that chapter is truly at the back of my head, yeah. So I just wanted to share that last piece after seeing that video. And I can only imagine what anybody who goes, whether it's man or woman, who goes through that same thing, I sympathize with them, because it's never easy to deal with, especially when you spend thousands, you know what I mean, investing in something of such. So I know what it can be like. I want to come quickly to Chris. We just got about an hour or less. Let's invite Chris to the chat room. Chris, can you hear me?
I can. Can you hear me?
I can, loud and clear.
Hi, Chris. Yes.
You okay? Let me go to the back before I want to talk about childhood trauma.
Okay.
I won't get into the other issue because it's too long.
Don't worry. We're going to invite you back for that one. Don't worry about it.
Keisha,
okay.
I'm Coffee and Cream.
Before you, just introduce yourself to everyone, then begin.
Yeah, I'm Coffee and Cream on the YouTube channel. That was the name of a company that my third wife and myself created in 2005. It's my music business, but it's also the parent company for a beauty salon that we both still partners in, and we've got a great relationship. But I want to go back to the childhood trauma because, Keisha, you brought a lump to my throat.
Take your time, Chris.
When I was 14, my mum cheated on my dad, and it blew up to a point where my mum took my brother and myself, moved out and moved in with her mum and dad. I was only there for 3 days, and I phoned my dad and I asked my dad to come and collect me. I didn't think it was fair that she should have both of us. And I remember sitting on the back seat of the car when my dad had collected me, looking out the back window and seeing my brother cry. But it traumatized the two of us. They got back together. Traumatized us to the point that we planned and plotted to kill this man. And to this day, I still know where he lived and what car he drove. All this time. And I'm old. I'm 72 now. This is when I was 14. It left that much trauma. We plotted and planned how to kill this man. I was 14, my brother was 10. We would ride up to that house on our bikes and plot and plan how we were going to kill him. Unfortunately, you know, my mum and dad stayed together after that, and it's never gone away. Childhood trauma is a terrible thing. You know what I'm saying? Lucky in the regard that never has there been any violence in that situation towards any of us. And that's the same with my children. I've got 7 children. I've got 3 marriages that have passed. We all get on with each other. Even to the point with the 3rd marriage that my second wife used to invite us over for Christmas. We'd spend Christmas with them. Yeah. So all I can say is that we've always put the children first. First and foremost, above all else. Go through the small bit of trauma of the breakup and say what we need to say, but then come back together to do the best thing for the children. And none of my 7 children have suffered with any trauma from those events. You know what I'm saying? Because I'm there for them, and so are their mothers. Do you know what I'm saying? But I'm not a violent man, so not in as far as women are concerned. I don't believe in raising a hand to a woman or children at all. I've never had to raise my hand to any of my children. And you can use your voice, you know. I mean, I've got that power. And that's all that was ever necessary with the children, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know what more to say. You know, it's the relationship you have with people. I've been lucky that those 3 marriages, and there was something that was learned from each of them, and something that triggered that has come to fruition with my current relationship of 9 years. And it's all the best parts of the 3 marriages in one place, you know.
Yeah.
But that's a bigger story that's got more trauma attached to it.
And I guess when you're young, you know, the trauma kind of just never goes away, does it?
Well, no, for me to be
Especially
able to remember where that guy still lives and what
mm,
car he drove.
yeah.
And I remember when he would collected my mum to take her initially to her mum and dad's, my brother and I were saying goodbye to her. And I leaned over my mum's lap and threatened to kill him at that point.
Mm.
And I
Wow.
just said to him straight, I am going to kill you.
Mm. Mm.
You know, and as a 14-year-old, those thoughts, you know, because we had it was such a surprise because we had a great upbringing, my brother and I.
Mm.
We were well looked after by both my mum and my dad, you know.
Right.
But yeah, and I can remember back that whole incident is still fresh. I remember my mum had listen, this is stupid stuff, but you remember it. My dad had an Elvis Presley record, Are You Lonesome Tonight?
Mm.
I remember putting it on and my mum screaming to take it off. Saying, I hate that record, take it off. When you listen to the lyrics in it, it makes sense. Does that make Are You Lonesome Tonight? It's him singing that situation of her thinking about or cheating on my dad, you know.
Yeah.
So
It brings
even that
back that
is
memory.
memorable.
Yeah.
You know, as soon as that record is ever played, it takes me back to being 14 years old.
Yeah.
Right.
But just to wrap up, Keisha, music for me has always been my best companion, healer, and well, General knows if I get into any kind of stress situation, I just certain things I put on and just let it play. And even if it's on repeat constantly, just use it as a healer. Very
It's
important.
the same for me too. Because I write, I create music, you know, just I've done that. Just sharing my experiences, not maybe all of it, but certain things I relate to. So I definitely appreciate that.
Yeah. So let's come around, you know, the screen before we end the show. There's something I need to let everybody know. In August, we normally hold the show at every last Sunday. Now that Sunday is going to be Carnival weekend, so it's going to be a no-no on that show on that week. So therefore, the last Sunday of August will be the 27th. We're not going to do the show on that day. We're going to do it the third week in August, which will be the 20th of August, August 20th. So we're going to have our meeting on the 13th, and we're going to have the mental health awareness show on the 20th. So just remember those dates. Yeah, 13th and the 20th. 13th is the meeting. As I come around the table, and I'm going to start with Sharon, and Sharon will take it around the screen. If anybody was going through a traumatic situation, after all the things we've been talking about today on this show, what do you want people to walk away knowing if they were going through whatever situation they might find themselves in? How would you best advise those people who may come across this, you know, session?
I think, you know, I would say if there's somebody that they can reach out to, that they could tell their story, to at least share it, and maybe they can get them help. But there has to be somebody that they more than likely can get to as a situation. I'll tell you real quick. I had somebody was in a desperate situation. And she called me. I don't know what to do, blah, blah, blah. She must have just had surgery, but the abuse was going on. All I said was, pack your bags and come to my house. Stay here and I will nurse you. And that's what I did. It just takes one person. You never know who's around you. So, and she did come because the abuse, the mental and the physical abuse was happening. And I was fearful for her life. Thank God the individual didn't know where I lived. And she came and she stayed here and I nursed her. So my thing is, I would just say, just reach out to somebody. If it's somebody, you know, it might not be somebody that you know. There is some kind of institution. There's somebody that can probably help you get you out of that situation. Like basically what Rankin Ann was saying earlier on. There are many places like that. So that would be my advice to the individual. If I'm not in a position to help, if I happen to know that person, and if I'm in a position to help, I will get you help. So that's what I would do.
Okay. Thank you, Sharon.
Yep. Rankin Ann, like you said it best, right? There are places for people like that. So yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely. And, you know, I think most of us now are lucky enough to be able to go online and search for these places.
Yeah.
So it's not out of reach. And if we're not able to go online, hopefully we know somebody where we can, or a local library, the way we can access something online and get some advice. The other thing that I think is really important to say is that sometimes, you know, people stay too long. Because they're not looking at the signs. You know, something happens once and they think it won't happen again. And I think sometimes we have to try and be aware that when someone shows us who they are, and sometimes it's not in the form, it may not be the first form, may not be the actual abuse itself, but even the way someone talks to somebody, you know, can be manipulative and controlling and just be indicative that something worse is going to come. So helping people to understand, you know, looking at those signals beforehand and just being on their guard. And, you know, as we've all said, it is about finding a safe place, but also bear in mind that sometimes the most dangerous times, especially in a woman's life, is when she lets a man know she's going to leave him. Because a lot of women who have been killed, it's because the man knows she's leaving him.
Right.
So sometimes you cannot let them know you're going. You've just got to be gone. Just be gone. Because as I, you know, statistics show that can be the most dangerous times in your life, you know, as a woman. So just so I don't forget, we do have resources, help resources, and support resources in our description on our YouTube channel. So if you click in the description, you'll see all the different resources for support. If you feel you may have the need for someone to go to and talk to and get the practical support that you need.
Thank you, Rankin Ann. Maestro.
Yeah, what I was going to say, you know, just for everybody, just trust your instincts. Yeah, be cynical. I mean, just be mindful of your own welfare. Don't, you know, if you think something is not quite right, you know what to do. And also, if you know if there is a friend or just someone who's got a listening ear, you know, and you know, because a lot of people don't have anyone to talk to, whether it's a neighbor or, you know, someone on the road. Because for me, I mean, just on my travels on the road, I talk to anybody. You know, I say hello to everybody. Some people that I don't even know, because you just don't know what's going on. You know, just a good morning or good afternoon or good evening, that may make somebody's day. You know, it's that person, you don't know what they're going through. So, you know, it's you know, just having the ability to, you know, just reach out to somebody. And there's as 10 Star Sharon and Rankin and said, these organizations out there, Samaritans out there, if you're in the UK, that is, organization throughout the world that you can talk to someone and it can give you some sort of guidance. So that's all I say is just be careful and look after your mental health and your physical being. That's very important as well. Okay, thank you.
Beverly, how would you best advise someone who, best advise somebody who's going through something that maybe you've heard on this show today? How best would you advise them? Oh, she disappeared.
I think Beverly's wasn't she having issues with her?
Oh, she was before, yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think she was having issues today.
Okay, so let's move over to Keisha. Same question.
So I'm going to say something that wasn't addressed, right? So from the abuse perspective, from the relationship aspect, sometimes people can't talk, they can't communicate. There is a sign, a hand gesture that you can actually use that is actually a sign for help if you're in an abusive situation, which is putting your hand up like this and folding forward with your thumb.
Yes.
That is the sign that shows and will indicate to an person of authority that you need help without verbalizing it, because sometimes it's so bad and you're already in it to the point where your safety, if you speak, your safety, you're basically, you can really end up really in a bad situation. So again, hold your hand out like this, you fold your thumb in, and you just do this and cup your thumb under. That's the sign that you for help if you're being in an abusive relationship.
Okay.
Even if you're a child, and you'll be in abuse and you're afraid to talk, you speak like this. Hold your thumb in, and then you do this. That is the sign, the call for help silently. Also, there's a conditioning that I think people who've never been abused don't understand. When you're in an abusive relationship, you're groomed before you get to the point where you can't get out. Mentally, these people are narcissists. They're manipulative. They know exactly what to tell you. And it's hard to get to grasp that someone can't leave or won't call the authorities. It may be this person may be such a monster that if you speak out, it's not just the fear of whatever, shame or whatever. It's literally the terror that I might not live to see another day. And it can be like, oh my God, run, call 911. But that 911 call may be your last. So you have to be strategic in thinking. I'm going to say from my perspective, because I come from the Caribbean, I'm a Jamaican child. In my culture, abuse is normalized. And then I get beat with stick, this, and I know we grow up and we say, oh, this was good for me. No, it wasn't. It was abuse. Call it what it is. And your kids can do nothing, no wrong. There's nothing under the sun a child should be able to do that you feel that you need to tie them up, beat them with objects, whatever. I literally, people used to laugh at me because I never took that route with my children. I believe in breaking a cycle because hurt people. And maybe I wasn't the type of parent that I needed to be because I did not know how to deal with my trauma. And I can honestly admit that. You know what I'm saying? And if you talk to my children or my son today, because we have like really, good relationships in terms of like just how we communicate. But again, like it's hard when you're a parent because you're not given any books. But your job when you choose to bring a life into the world is to protect. It's to protect. So I applaud you, Christopher, also, because like at the end of the day, just protect your kids. Like if you've been abused, know that I'd rather be the overprotective parent than allow people in my home that I think that I can trust. I trusted no one after I was abused. No one. Because in my mother's house at 12 years old, a family friend raped me at 12. And my mom wasn't somebody I can talk to. Have a relationship with your kids. Talk to your children. Like, that's so important, to have the lines of communication open. Do not let them be afraid to come to you about anything, even the uncomfortable stuff.
Yeah.
Because that's how you're going to protect them. And stop telling your kids to hold secrets, or don't go tell nobody your business. No, stop doing that, because then you're included in that somebody.
Yeah.
I'm just saying, this is how my life was and why things happened the way they did in the quiet. Nobody was there to save me, and if you're a child out there and you feel like you cannot be protected, if you have one family member, one relative, do it when you go to school. Because guess what? You're going to be saved.
Yeah.
Parents failing you, go to the school system. There are counselors. There are so many people, no matter how young you are. And parents, start talking to your kids.
Yeah.
Start talking to your kids.
Yeah.
That's all I gotta say.
Thank you so much, Keisha. I'm giving you a spiritual hug right now.
Yeah, sister.
And I'm going to call you right after the show also. Let's come to Gloria. Same question to you. How best would you advise somebody who went through something, whatever it is, how best would you advise anyone if they went through similar? You're muted. On mute.
Can you unmute her?
Can you unmute or no? I can't hear you. Let me see.
Put your thing over your microphone.
No, it's Gloria.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you probably have yourself muted as well.
No, let me mute her and then unmute her again now.
Yeah.
Can you hear me, Gloria?
Right.
No, she's still muted.
You're still mute? Yeah, watch.
Right, because 10 Star, did you have her muted? Because if you had her muted, then and then she can unmute herself.
Let me see. I can't even see her on here. Oh, let me see.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me just go further down.
Yeah.
Okay. No, she's not muted here, but I'm going to mute her and unmute her again. Try unmuting, Gloria. Yeah, you're unmuted.
Say something. You're unmuted. Say something, Gloria. No.
It's got to be her device when she left.
You know what? I wonder if her volume is down.
Right.
Yeah.
Check your volume.
Yeah, maybe that's what it is. The volume, but it's down.
Yeah.
She's probably turned it down by mistake.
Have her drop down and come back up. Like.
Yeah, the Gloria, leave and then come back in. Yeah. Let's come over to Chris. Chris.
You guys have done a great job. I really enjoyed it, actually. I know it's not a subject to enjoy, but I've only got one thing to say. When I see my 7 children all together and see how happy they are and how much they interact with each other on all the time, they're all constantly, even from 3 different mothers, they're all that close, and it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. You know, it's just joyous. So that's all. You guys have been through some things. I'm just glad that I can't be considered one of those people that has done things like that. I'm unboxing trained, so one of the things is you never raise a hand to a woman, and if you did, it would be dangerous, you know.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
There's no need. There's no need. That's the biggest thing about this. There's no need. Be an adult. Grow up. Move on. You know, things come to an end.
Yeah.
resolve them amicably, move on, and
Yeah.
rebuild the relationship in a different way after.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, and I would suggest to you that with my first wife lives in the middle of nowhere, and it was a
Oh yeah.
long time ago.
Mm.
But my two exes, we're best friends.
Right.
That's the thing. We're best friends, and my current partner has met my third wife, and they get on like a house on fire. You know, and that's the way it should be.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
You know, but you've got to be determined. There's no spite. You mustn't be spiteful about this. Get through the initial trauma, get it, talk about it, get it out of the way, deal with it, move on, and re-establish a new kind of relationship. You know, for the children, above
Yeah.
all else, for the children.
Yeah. Yeah. It can be done, and you know, taking time out to breathe for yourself, taking time out for you, rather than going
Go
from
from
one
one to the next. Yeah,
to
don't
the
do it.
next without breathing space and
That's
trying to figure out who you are. Well, one thing which they did a test quite recently, and when they asked individuals who they were and what they wanted out of life, more than half couldn't even tell you who they were or what they wanted out of life. And that says a hell of a lot. So I think there comes a point where you have to take out time for yourself, figure out who you are, what you're about, and what you want out of life.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
no, that's important. Don't plan. Don't plan. Don't go from one relationship to another. There needs to be a healing
Yeah.
period in between. You
That's
know what I'm
right.
saying? And then the right person will come along, and when they do, you'll know. You know.
Yeah. Thank you, Chris. Let's come quickly to Gloria. Can you hear me, Gloria?
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you all
Okay.
hear me?
We can hear you now, yeah.
Okay, I'm going to be very brief about this. All I can say is run. RUN, bloody well run. Run from anything that will affect your psyche, your health, your mind. Just run away from the situation, because you see, you matter. You matter most. Um, there's this woman who was in a very, very terrible, abusive relationship, and then she had the church to deal with, because they're going to say, sister this, you've left your husband. At the end
Mm,
of the day, she died. She
mm,
died. So you must put yourself first.
Yeah.
That's me. I will
mm,
definitely run, and I
yeah,
will advise run. That's all I
yeah.
can say. Run.
And I think, everyone has got, their own coping skills, what works for them. And I
Mm,
would imagine every single one of them is valid if it works for you.
mm.
But I think the main thing is don't stay stuck in one particular
Nah.
downturn, just, take time out for yourself. I would advise and just work on yourself and just work on elevating. And
Mhm.
there is, I can tell you, there is life after a negative relationship,
Yeah.
you know. So that's where we're going to end the show. Anybody has anything to say? Sharon, I'm going to let you end the show. You say what you need to say.
Trust me,
And
if
if,
I just say quickly after you, 10 star, just to follow up what you said just now.
Go ahead.
It's just a little piece that I read on someone's status, and it says, "Make yourself a priority. It's not a sign of selfishness or weakness to distance yourself or walk away from those constantly bringing down your vibe. Life is about balance. It's about spreading kindness, but it's also about not letting anyone take that kindness away from you. So be kind to yourself."
Amen. I think
Amen.
that absolutely speaks volumes, and that's exactly what we're doing here. I can tell you, without calling names or anything, there's people I've had to walk away from, for my own sanity and their family members, for my own sanity. And it's one of the best things I've ever done, you know. And I still love, I love them now. I do, But I've had to walk away from my own sanity, and what used to be can never be again, you know. And it's just like that, And that's what works for me personally. What works for me may not work for you, you know. So I think we just need to just study who we are, what we want, and just see how we can elevate, from it. And just imagine Keisha, Rankin, and every single one of us who's been through something. Here we are doing a show of this magnitude, and we're thinking about helping others. How can we help others to get through it? And I think that speaks volumes about who we are as individuals collectively. And some of you on the outside too, who's contributed to this, who may have gone through similar. Sharon,
Yes, sir.
that we have an email, right? And what can people do with that email?
They can email us at sprbradio@gmail.com. If you want to be a guest on our show to tell us your story, your traumas, whatever you want to share with us, give us an email or send us an email and let us know. We look forward to hearing from whoever is out there, whoever this reaches. I want to say real quick, kudos and thank you to all who spoke. There are people out there who probably knows who you are and like, damn, I didn't even know that. A lot of people I know was like, oh, damn, I didn't know you went through that, because of how we present ourselves now. We've all gone through the trauma, right? But we found a way to elevate ourselves and still have that reaching hand to help somebody else. Okay, this is what we do. A lot of people, I mean, DJ Maestro Ball, I've known him for a little good while now, love him to death, and I want to say this to him, that since meeting you and you becoming a part of the team, like I live for my Fridays because I'm working. Music is such a healer. And I look forward to my Fridays because for the hard ways, no joke. I'm not saying this to plug him. I'm just saying he helps me.
For real.
The music is wicked. So it helps me. It takes me home. Sometimes just where things was good when I was home, it brings me there.
Do you know what? So thank you for that, Sharon. I said this to 10 Star the other day. The memory is a powerful thing. I know you have a bad memories as well, but there's good memories as well. We have to have good memories as well as And for me, one of those is music. Like you said, I mean, I've been playing music. I mean, I was in a sound system when I was 15 years old. So, it's what we, it's what we love to do and would love to listen to. And it just brings another relief. It just brings joy to as Chris said it himself, certain tunes, and Keisha, certain tunes you hear. Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Yeah. And there's, and it's funny you mention music because, my music to go to when I need some space in my brain is gospel music, and I go for the deep Southern gospel. Sharon knows about deep Southern gospel, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. That nitty-gritty gospel, that comes with a raw message is effective for me.
It is.
Yeah,
it is.
I'm always listening to Jermaine Edwards. I'm always listening to him.
Yeah.
What can I say?
And Leandria Johnson.
Yes, Leandria. Mm-hmm.
Definitely. But we're going to end the show now. So we're going to be back here on when is it again? I need to get my calendar. You remember, Sharon?
Wait, I've got my calendar because I've got my phone.
Okay, so it's going to be we're going to meet, we're going to have our meeting on the 13th, and then we'll be back here live and direct on YouTube and Facebook on the 20th. Yeah.
Oh,
And more than likely, our guest will be Chris Hills. Yeah.
Sorry, can I just have one more thing, just regarding what Sharon just said about the show? On Friday, if anybody's interested, Rankin Ann's birthday.
Oh yes.
Yes, Rankin Ann's birthday.
She
We're
listening?
having a party.
Yes.
We're having a listening party. We're having a party for her.
So Rankin Ann send me some tunes, all right?
Drop your email address in the group chat, the WhatsApp.
Okay, you don't even know how many tunes she sent me, but I'll pick out 10 top tunes that
Your
Rankin
birthday on
Ann
the
picked out.
4th. Sorry, everyone.
So I will
Both of
do that.
August,
I'll put
yeah?
that in the chat. So it's this Friday coming. Sorry, that's it. Sorry.
And you're all invited to Lovers Rock Radio chat room. Come and join me.
Yeah.
Listen and rock and groove and drink.
Nice
Yes.
seeing you all.
Okay. So we're going to get out of here now. So thank you, everyone. Gloria, Keisha, Rankin, and DJ Maestro, Beverly knows Chris, everyone. Sharon, Mango. God bless everyone. Sorry. The B nearly came out.
Fix it.
I also want to thank Nicola Cottrell. Thank you very much for tuning in. I'll give you a call a little bit. And also, I think we had Denise Parks in the building. Thank you so much. And I want to thank Chris Hills for being our guest.
Adiola Aziz too. She was on here.
Sorry?
Yes.
Yeah,
And
that's from
Adiola.
Nigeria.
Yeah, Adiola Aziz.
Okay, Adiola, thank you very much. And for being here. So everyone, we're going to get out of here just like this and see you soon.
All right, later. 10 star. You're hitting up.